Ionavation, we out in New Rochelle. Ionavation, moving with Intel. Ionavation, now we in the groove. Ionavation, we making money and moves. Hey.
Hello, Ionavators. Welcome back to the Ionavation Podcast. I'm Riana.
And I'm Gerry.
And today we have a special guest, Dr. Rasheda Weaver, who is the assistant professor here at the Hynes Institute. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Who is Rasheda Weaver in one sentence?
Rasheda Weaver is an intellectual badass. I am a trailblazer. I think I have two sentences now. Or three. A trailblazer. I'm focused and I'm not afraid to fail because I know my passion will help me succeed no matter what.
That's awesome and really inspiring. So tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, your how you got into teaching and stuff like that.
So I am from the Bronx, New York, originally, and my parents are of Jamaican and Cuban descent. So I'm a first-generation American, and I grew up in a community in the Bronx where there was a lot of adversity there, and I just, since I was 6 years old, I wanted to do something about the adversity, and I was always interested in entrepreneurship as a means of employing people because I always felt that poverty was the issue. And if people could find a way out of poverty, then, then their lives would improve. And I had this grand idea when I was a kid to start a community research center because I love research. I'm always asking questions, and that's my passion. And so I wanted to start a community research center called Dream Haven because it'll be a place where your dreams would come true.
That's awesome.
And the center would literally do research on the community, on how poverty affects children and the people living there, and then create services designed around those research findings. And so that's actually how I got started in social entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship in general because I pursued that path in life. I decided to go to college, and when I went there, I started studying psychology and the impact of poverty on human development and the brain development. And ultimately, I decided to join a public affairs Ph.D. program where I started studying social enterprises because I realized the dream I had of starting Dream Haven was actually it was a social enterprise. I just didn't know what that term was, as most people don't, and so that's what I study today.
Yeah.
So when I was in my doctoral program, I did start Dream Haven. It's a nonprofit community research center, and I started doing community-based research in Camden, New Jersey, actually, because that's where I was going to school at the time. And long story short, I ended up deciding that I just wanted to pursue research and faculty life full-time, as opposed to running Dream Haven, but the mission and the core values that I had around that idea when I was a little girl are still the same.
Right.
Yeah, and so instead of creating a social enterprise that addresses poverty, what I do now is I study social enterprises that are combating poverty and the different ways they go about that.
Right.
So that I can use my gift of research, of being a researcher, to really just disseminate knowledge, generate knowledge, and disseminate knowledge related to combating poverty.
Right. So, what was like that?
It was a mouthful.
What was that click for you that you knew that this is what you wanted to do? Like when you were younger, what? Yeah.
What, fighting poverty or the social entrepreneurship?
Just the social entrepreneurship.
Well, I just looked around me, and many of the people that I saw that were doing well were entrepreneurs. And so my cousin, when I was a kid, my cousin opened a day spa. And he's like the manliest man. He's so masculine. But he opened a day spa. And my New York accent came all the way out, right? And he started a day spa in Queens. And I just loved it. And I just saw how it really transformed his life. He went from a spa to owning a building and then buying a house. And then he was able to take me to Jamaica for the summers and things like that. And it was just really beautiful, and I saw how he was able to just change his entire life through business, through owning a business. And so I just wanted to study that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, you were minorly, you were pretty successful when you were beginning Dream Haven, but you obviously moved on to faculty life. Is it, difficult to, give up on something that you had started yourself and kind of built up a little bit?
It is, and it's something that I do want to continue pursuing in the future. I still have that dream of, running Dream Haven. But I think once I realized that research is a thing that I want to do every day, that made it easier. And so as long as I'm able to do that, then I'm happy.
Right.
But at the same time, I do, working with Dreamhaven, that's working with the community, and that's what I love as well. And that's the whole purpose. That was like literally the dream, the driving force in my life for so many years.
Right.
And it's a bit of a transition. And you always wonder,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do actually own a social enterprise now called Weaver Social Enterprise Directory.
Right.
And it's a for-profit business, and it's a national directory that features over 1,000 social enterprises across the United States.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I'm still a social entrepreneur, just using my research to really drive the entrepreneurship.
Right. So like
this is the same thing I wanted to do. It's just a different business.
Right.
Dreamhaven, when I was doing community-based research in Camden, New Jersey, was really successful. A lot of local news stations did articles on me. You could literally Google it, and they really thought that I was an asset to the community. So I was able to really see what I could do there, and that drives me, with the work I do with my students. For instance, I'm teaching a study abroad course in the spring semester called Using Entrepreneurship to Advance Community Economic Development in Jamaica. And that course focuses on how students can literally use basic research skills to give the community a voice around an issue that is of importance to them, and then design a report of recommendations that they can give to local organizations, government, even local entrepreneurs. And so I'm teaching my students to literally do what my dream was, because I know, being here in New York, so many of my students in my class, you're in my class, so they come from similar backgrounds, and they want to do the same thing. They grew up with, in communities where there are many issues, and they want to fight those issues, and they want to use entrepreneurship as a means to do that, while also creating a sustainable life for themselves.
Right.
And that's my goal. That's what I want to teach them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to give them I literally want to give them the tools needed to change their own communities, and the confidence needed to do that as well.
Right. So back to the study abroad Jamaica, right? Tell us a little bit more of that, because there's still some seats open, right?
Yes, so there are a couple of seats open. I can take up to 14 students, and I have 9 so far. And so that course, let me tell you about the outcomes first. Expected student outcomes include entrepreneurial skills, real life entrepreneurial skills, consulting experience, service learning experience, and just learning how to tell a story of a community and to give them a voice.
Right.
And so the study abroad component of the course, so it'll run over the spring semester, and over spring break we'll actually take a trip to Jamaica, and students in the class at the beginning of the semester will actually have to design a business and run it. We're thinking of fundraiser, some big kind of party, and they'll charge admission or something like that, and that'll be how they generate revenue needed to pay for their flights to go to a study abroad trip.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And obviously, we'll have that link in the description and down below too. So keep applying.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to say that the community development issue that they'll be addressing in that course relates to access to the beach, and how that many of the all-inclusives down in Negril, Jamaica, are really preventing locals from access to good beaches, as well as local entrepreneurs from just selling their products because everybody's flocking to the all-inclusives.
Right.
And so we want to give the local entrepreneurs a voice and see how we can hopefully help address it.
Yeah, and just tying that in, I know, use this one quote that, I told you before, that it's so amazing. I just wanted you to share that with the audience.
Yeah, so it's the quote is by Ferdinand Foch, a philosopher, and it's my absolute favorite quote. It's a quote that I live by. It is that the most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire. And
what does that mean to you?
What that means to me is, I'm in control of my destiny. Right. And as a girl growing up in a poor neighborhood in the Bronx to now an award-winning, internationally known professor and researcher, that's a dream come true. It is. It's not typical. You know what I mean? In order, when I remember I used to have this word up on my wall when I was a kid. It was passion. So every morning, right before my bed, I would see the word passion. And when I think of that quote, it makes me think of all the passion that I have and never to ever doubt myself. And that I could literally do anything. And if I stumble and fall, oh well, I get up and go again, right? Yep. Fail fast, fail forward.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So one of the things that we're covering, I mean, that you've said plenty of times, because as you mentioned, I take your classes. You can't, when you're starting a business, when you're in entrepreneurship, you talked about it a little bit. You can't be afraid of failure. Like, can you just talk about that? Like,
so failure is essential to entrepreneurship. It is going to happen, and at some extent, either your business is going to fail, or you're going to fail to hire the right employee, or your friendships will fail because maybe you'll start businesses with your friends. Actually, when I was in college, it was my junior year. So I worked 3 jobs to pay for college. And when I was in my junior year, I decided to start my first business. Mm-hmm. And I started a toiletry company called Rose Petal by Simpson and Selver. My maiden name is Simpson. Okay. And I started with one of my best friends in college. And right before, like, we acquired over $100,000 in startup funding. Mm-hmm. And right before we were supposed to launch our products, she says, I don't want to do this anymore. And she was like, and I was like, why? And she was like, well, I just enjoyed the sisterhood experience of it all. Like, and I was like, what? You know how much money I put into this business, and I'm working 3 jobs to pay for college? Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening to me is that we ended up not starting the business. I ended up having to take out loans. Even though I was working the 3 jobs, I had to end up taking out student loans, even though I did not want to. But I had spent so much money on the business and lost it as a result of our failure. That I ended up having to take out loans, and I was devastated about that. But, you know, here I am today. You know what I mean? If I would have let that depress me, I wouldn't be here. If I would have let that enrage me or make me bitter, I wouldn't be here. And so I'm grateful for that, because now it's a story that I can tell my students so that they know that you can fail, but you can still become something great anyway. One thing I do want to share with everyone watching is that if you have a dream, right, going back to Dream Haven, if you have a dream, go for it. If you fail, then it's okay, because you'll always know what the result was. You know, the worst thing in my life to me would be not doing something because I was afraid that I was going to fail, or I was afraid that I was going to be embarrassed, so people would think of me in a certain kind of way. Whenever I start to have those thoughts, as we all do, every human being has those negative thoughts and those doubtful thoughts, I'm just like, I just need to act. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, either, you know, I'm going to succeed, right. Which I hope I succeed. And many times we do, mm-hmm. you know, or I'm going to fail, but I'll still survive anyway. And so what? Yeah. So what? That's what I want to leave people with. Yeah. So what if you fail? So what if you mess up? So what if people have something to say about it? You are living your life. You only have one life. Life is short. Go out and do your best to make your dreams come true.
Thank you, Dr. Weaver. Again, apply for the Study Abroad Jamaica course that Dr. Weaver will be teaching in the spring. We'll drop that link in the description and in the video. So thank you again. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram and everything else at Hynes Institute. Do you have any social medias you want to plug? Or?
Check out my website, www.rashedaweaver.com, RASHEDAWEAVER.
Awesome.
Alrighty, bye guys.
Alright, bye.
Hey, we really working, Gale Ventures the spot. Bert and May got the podcast hot. We innovating, no debating, we creating. Ionavators in our lane, never hating. We just worry about us and what we do. Ionavation Podcast show, get in tune.